time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
All right, 12:02 right here on Two Guys and a Goalie. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Two Guys and a Goalie presented to you by GS Construction, setting the industry standard for 50 years with quality, efficiency, and safety. Driving their success, GS Construction has a foundation built on teamwork, and now they want you to become a part of the team. That's right. Visit www.gsconstruction.ca and click Ready to Work, or just visit their page at Indeed.ca. With the Next Up Person program at GS Construction, it's not just a job, it is a career. And go check it out, gsconstruction.ca. You can text us anytime here on Two Guys and a Goalie today at 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. And if you're watching over on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up, sub to the channel, whether you're watching live or you're watching a little bit later on. We'd appreciate the sub. And hey, if you have any questions on Oilers and free agency around the league, don't be shy. Pass them across, and I'll dish them off to Cass and Gager as we work our way through Two Guys and a Goalie today. Gager should be connecting shortly. There's Cass. Cass, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this free agency. Like,
you got to be fired up for pre and post next year. Like, holy smokes!
There's so much that happened, and not just with Edmonton, but around the league. Like, it was nuts. What a crazy day! What a crazy day! And you know, the thing is you look at it, it's like none of the moves were absolutely shocking, but they were shocking at the same time. Like it was nuts day. So it has me pretty excited. Excited for the rest of the offseason, excited for next year. It's pretty crazy.
You know what? It's good to and the offseason is not going to be long. Like, it's you're right. People should be very excited about what they've done. Yeah, let's open up camp. Open up camp already. I want to do an orange and blue breakfast. I want to do a Tales of the North already with Arvidsson and Skinner, and it's going to be a good mix.
How good is Arvidsson going to be for that?
That you know what? That kind of seemed like not as much, because we talked about Hyman for like 4 months before it was like, when he leaves the Leafs, he's coming to Edmonton. When he leaves the Leafs, he's coming to Edmonton. I always sort of got the sense that they'd like to get their hands on Arvidsson. I think lots of teams would, Cass, but what was the biggest wow moment for you in Oilers free agency yesterday? Was it when they got Arvidsson, or were you expecting that? Was it Skinner? Was it when they brought back Henrique when it looked like they were out of money? Like,
yeah, the biggest wow moment was bringing back Henrique when I thought they were out of money, and they're still going to have to do something. But that was the biggest surprise to me when Skinner got bought out. I'm like, ooh, there's a guy. Like, if you could get him on a friendly deal, guy could fit in your top six. I know he's had his issues in years past, but generally scores quite a few goals. So I was like, that's a great deal. I'm like, that's a great deal for Edmonton. But I thought there was no way Henrique was coming back. I'm like, there's no way they find a way to get this done and to do this. But lo and behold, they do. The Arvidsson one, I don't want to say we saw it coming completely, but we're like, that could be a pretty good fit. For Edmonton in terms of a depth guy, can play up and down your lineup, brings a lot of what you like. When we look at this, like you added a third line center in Henrique that can play in the top six if you need. You added Skinner, who can play in your top six. You added Arvidsson, who can play in your top nine or top six, depending on, again, what style or where you need him to play. So it's like you added some just absolutely fantastic pieces up front. Like I know we haven't talked about grades or anything, but it's like they're getting a passing grade for me right now. Now there's more work to do because you're over the cap by a little bit. You got to find a way to move some money out, but boy. The Henrique one was really the one that surprised me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joaquin Gage joining us on Two Guys and a Goalie. If you were listening on TuneIn or iHeart, Gager has just popped in to the show today. And if you're watching over on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit us up in the nasty chat. Let us know your comments on what they've done. Gager, Cass said we haven't letter graded it yet. I mean, I rolled out an A+ on the show this morning, but because they're still slightly over the cap and there's some work left to do you bump that down to an A, or do you just ride this thing out the whole way?
Well, first of all, Dusty, let's just thank my agent for getting the deal done in time for Two Guys with EST. I've been signed on for another year here, so just under the wire to join you guys.
Good to know. HR Daddy going behind my back, just like getting Gage. Yeah. What's going on here? Like, what is this? This makes no sense.
Get me all signed up.
Yeah.
What was the question? I don't know.
Would you still give them an A+, even though they're a little bit over and have some work to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys were just talking about Arvidsson, right? Like the shock when seeing that on, I was stunned. I didn't know if it was real because I saw the signed Viktor Arvidsson on Instagram. I'm like, okay, who's putting these fake things out there to look like that to tease with the emotions of Edmonton Oilers fans? No, that's a huge feather in the cap. I can't wait.
Mhm.
I can't wait to see him beside Leon Draisaitl at some point and see
Could be a
what that
great
kind of
fit.
looks like. Like he's one of those guys that as a goalie, Dusty, when he had the puck on his off wing on the right side, he's got a wicked shot. And you get that anxious feeling every time he was shooting the puck. So yeah, it's again, a little bit worried about the injury stuff over the last
he
few
does. He
years,
doesn't
but-
play a lot of full seasons, but
But
Well, here's the thing with that, guys, though, is what they did with the rest of because I had that thought too, but what you did with the rest of your lineup, like with bringing in Skinner, with signing Henrique, is like not that you want people to be injured, but it's like you have flex if he were to get hurt or couldn't play a full season. Like you have flex now, especially in that top six. Like, yeah, I got to give him an A+ right now. But the Arvidsson one is huge. That's just a clutch signing. Like you brought in 2 20-goal scorers. You brought in 2 20-goal scorers in Skinner and Arvidsson, and for not overly crazy cap amount. Like
I mean, it's Skinner, like minimum 20. Like he's been 40.
Yeah.
He's in 30 multiple times in his career, right? And he's going to be playing with one of or both at times two of the best playmaking centers in the entire National Hockey League. So, I mean, he should be a really nice fit there. And Arvidsson on the other side is a real nice fit too. Cass, do you think it's as simple as next year when they roll it out, it's Draisaitl between Skinner and Arvidsson to start the season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you got a passer and you got 2 triggermen there. Arvidsson digs pucks out. He goes to, like, if you recall, we've seen him a lot with LA. It's like he plays gritty. Like he's not a guy to shy away. Like he gets into the corners. He's involved. I would think that's the first look you're going to get, like when they do real lines in exhibition. I would assume that's what you're going to start with. Now, who knows? Again, you have a lot of flex. You have a lot of different looks you can give now with this with the top 6, but that's probably where it would start. There would be something about having McDavid with Skinner as well, though. Like if you think about it, like there's potential there too. But man, we're gonna have some fun looking at potential line combinations going into this because it's like there's a lot here now.
Gager, what do you think? Simple as that? Got to start. I mean, you could. There's so many. There's so many different ways you can go, though. Like I said, it's like so much space for so many activities now. Like there's so many guys for so many line combinations. I'm pretty sure on the morning show once a week, I'm going to roll out a new set of line combinations, and we'll spend the whole week just discussing the possibility of them because that's what they've kind of put together here, which is really nice to see.
Yeah. You can almost throw 9 names in a hat, Dusty, and draw them out, and that's pretty solid lineup, you know. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be, and again, it all depends. Like just because names on paper look great, but not those fits don't always work too, right? Although it can look good on paper, the chemistry sometimes isn't always there.
But Gager, I don't want to say it's hard to have chemistry or not hard to have chemistry with McDavid and Draisaitl because you have to think the game at a certain level. But it's pretty hard not to have chemistry with McDavid or Draisaitl as a winger.
Well, especially with McDavid, I think a lot of times when people first start playing with Connor, they kind of become fans for the first little bit.
How can you not?
Go, oh my God, look at what he's doing. Oh my, he's past him. And then all of a sudden the puck's on your tape. I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta be ready and start reading off him a little bit more, right? I told that joke. I love that joke that Rob Brown always says. You know, they ask him, what's it like playing with Mario? He goes, well, you know, it takes a special player to play with special people and to think the game and see opportunities. But I think Mario's getting the hang of it.
Brownie. That's great.
780-218-9999. 780-218-9999. If you're watching on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up and hit us up in the nasty chat. We'll get to a few of those. I want to get to a couple of text messages here. It's Two Guys in Goalie with Nielson, Kassian and Gage, presented to you by GS Construction. They are hiring now. They are hiring always. Propane Pimp is in and says, guys, it can't be an A+ when the defensive core returns with the second and third pair were the team's weak link last time we saw them. The forward core is stacked, however. I just look at it and go, this defensive core that everybody has major issues with was within one game away from a Game 7, or from winning the Cup in a Game 7, and they didn't lose that game because of their defensive core. They lost it because they couldn't generate any offense against Florida, who was a great defensive team for most of the season. So, I don't know. You came this close to winning a Stanley Cup with this defensive core. Broberg is only going to get better. Bouchard should still be able to get a little bit better, especially at the other end of the ice. I think you can win a cup with this core on the blue line if they stay healthy, right? Cass, is that too crazy? Is that a stretch?
I think you could. I mean, you're probably going to have to move out somebody on the right side with the other defenseman you signed. But yeah, it's not a stretch at all, Dusty.
Yeah, well, I also think next year at the deadline, they won't need to add a forward at all. So all their assets will go into adding a defenseman, right?
Yeah.
And if they need to have one, then I think it probably gets taken to the next level. Gage, your thoughts on it can't be an A+ because they're running back the same D?
No, I think it's an A+ because the things that you mentioned, and I'm gonna throw Darnell Nurse into the mix here. Like, Darnell, I don't think had a season, a good season. He just didn't. Like, for what he is capable of, what we've seen in the past, I think there's a lot of improvement that you can see from Darnell Nurse. So I expect him to have a way better year next year. And if that happens, that really solidifies their decor, I think, anyway. So that's what I'm optimistic about with Darnell Nurse's season, for just getting back to that kind of, that bubble year. I know it's that he doesn't get all the power play time, but I wouldn't mind discussing with you guys with now you can put out a pretty good second power play, and maybe take the burden off some of the burden off the big dogs, right? And
what would the second PP look like here? Would you leave the first unit completely intact?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then you're looking at.
Why would you switch that? You're not going to switch that.
Well, no, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I was just. So you're looking at Skinner, Arvidsson. Who would be your point man there? Nurse.
I'd go.
They
Nurse
usually
and Ekholm.
Nurse. You put Nurse and Ekholm out there.
Yeah.
And then Henrique.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, if Kane's still around, then we'll get to that during hire it or fire it. But
Arvidsson's probably your net front guy, though, so I don't know if you're going with Kane.
Yeah. So you could go. Yeah. I mean, you play them a little bit more. I just won't believe the Oilers have a PP2 until we actually see it.
No. They still won't.
You don't have time. Like, you would need to have time to develop as a second power play unit, and I don't think they'd give them that time to get some chemistry on the second PP unit. Like,
and you don't need to. You don't need to. Like, your first PP is too good. So
yeah.
But Gager, what you're saying, Gager, is that they've got the offensive depth beyond what they had last year, right?
I think so. Yeah. And just, when things aren't going well, maybe they get whatever. Maybe they get 40 seconds, maybe they start the power play. At certain
You're nuts. I guess if the other guys have been out there for a long shift, maybe you don't call timeout and keep them out there. You mix in the other guys.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get to this comment from Calvin C. over on YouTube. And hey, by the way, on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up for us. That would be great. Give us a like. Calvin C. Just with Skinner and Arvidsson plays a hard game. Skinner's played over 1,000 games, but has never played in the playoffs. So we'll see how that works. But Calvin asks, and Cass, I'll throw this to you first. How do you think this team fares against a bigger physical team in the playoffs? Carrick's gone, and if Kane gets moved, that's another physical option that's gone. What do you think, Cass?
Well, I don't necessarily think Kane gets moved. And that'll be a challenge, and the challenge always has been with Edmonton is particularly when teams play really defensive, really physical, really hard to play against, sometimes they can shut down the offense. That is the challenge, and that will be the challenge. So if we're looking at, okay, what types of styles are they going to have to overcome? That's a big one. And I think it's a fair question to look at it and say, okay, are they going to have enough bite to their game? Now, in saying that, we've seen McDavid, he can play physical and he doesn't shy away. He's not a player that disappears when it gets physical. Leon, and I know he was hurt, but generally not a player that shies away once it gets physical. So they have some of that component to them, and they have some guys that can play physical on the back end. Now, you've added a little bit, and then, with Mattias Ekholm in particular, where there's a little bit of bite there as well. So I would be hesitant to say they're just going to get pushed around, but I do think that is a fair question to ask and to look at this and say, okay, is their bottom six in particular going to bring enough bite that they can push back against that? Because I'm not concerned about the top six. Those guys respond to physicality, and it's difficult to pin
They're
them
not going to get pushed out of games, right? Like those guys, no,
definitely not.
Gage, where do you come out on this?
Again, I think that Arvidsson provides that sandpaper, playing between the whistles and getting under people's skin, right? Like finishing checks, like just get this guy away from me. I predict he'll draw so many more retaliatory penalties than we've seen from Oilers in the past. Like that's, I know we talked. There's rumors about Kane. Is he going to be around? But again, I think if Kane's in the lineup at 85-90%, Oilers probably win the Stanley Cup, right? I kind of think that. So they're not going to get run out of the rink. Leon, a healthy Leon, while with the puck, engages with contact, right? He brings guys and uses.
He likes that contact.
Yeah, he likes to bring, because that opens up things for him. He can spin that backhand pass he has. So, and Connor's Connor. It doesn't. Hyman's he's a dog on a bone. No, they're not going to get pushed around by any means.
Cass, do we refer to Arvidsson's dives now as just good gamesmanship?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the city hated him for a couple of playoffs now. So now I can't.
It's going to be great. Like, just look at I was just thinking when you guys were talking about the battles between Arvidsson and Ekholm, even in this playoffs, where I'm just like, that was fun to watch. Those two guys just go at it. And Arvidsson, who's not huge, but just physically is just like a water bug, like in the mix. And the dives and everything. I'm like, yeah. Now it's good gamesmanship. We love it now. It's great. Yeah, we'll take it all day long.
And those guys are good friends too, right?
Yeah, they're tight. They're tight. So
that probably went into a lot of the decision making of coming here. So always good to have good friends coming into a team. They obviously talked beforehand. And Ekholm, you've heard him talk about this. I don't know if sounds like he's staying here for another summer, right? He loves Edmonton, stays in town. This is great. A lot of Swedes on this team now. Jeez.
Need to get that Finnish quota up again for my preferences. They drafted a Finnish goalie in the second round, so he'll become like my favorite guy now in the organization. I'll die on that hill, and it'll go really well. Before we get to hire it or fire it for GS Construction, then we'll get to some of the bigger, hotter headlines and take a rip kind of around the league. Rudy, father of triplets, somehow found time to text into two guys on the goalie today. Says, do you guys think that this helps to keep Leon in town because they're saying, hey, here's some legit top six guys for you now? Cass, what do you think?
It might. It's not going to hurt to pull the trigger on a couple of these guys to say we're going to have options. You're going to have people aside from Evander Kane to play with if you want. I think that's a enticing idea. So yeah, I think it helps.
Gage, considering all this, they're going to probably get him as much money as he possibly wants, and they'll find a way. Especially that Jeff Jackson's an absolute wizard after we saw yesterday. They'll find some way to get this done. They still get Connor McDavid. You're still on a Stanley Cup contender. Like this, that might just be like the final, look what we've done for you. They've already built a pretty good team around Draisaitl and McDavid here. If that's the final straw that gets a deal done, then kudos to them.
Yeah. I wonder if that was kind of in Leon's decision making. Well, what are they going to do? Like, we said, well, does it depend on the GM? Jeff Jackson's just taken that completely out of the equation and just set, the possibilities of Leon playing with a bunch of different really skilled high-end players, so that have quickness, that aren't shy from physicality. This is Leon definitely has to think, wow, these guys are doing something special to for not just me, but for the whole team, right? And I want to be part of that. So I'm sure that'll go into his decision making. I was kind of thinking that maybe he'll test the waters, and it probably will. Like, he'll probably, unless they really, I think he will. But what do you guys think? If he says, I don't know, I'm going to test the waters, do you run the whole year with him with the possibilities of him leaving on July 1st?
You have to.
You have to. I think you have to. Like, they're loaded. Like, they're going to be the Stanley Cup favorite going into next season. They'll be picked by 80% of experts to win the Stanley Cup. I don't think you can bail out of that just because of the threat that Leon might leave you in the summer. I don't think they could swallow that. They can't do it. I mean, he's kind of got him by the balls on that front. Like, they'll sign him whenever he wants to sign. You know what I mean? Like, this city would go up in flames if they traded Draisaitl when they've built this roster right now. Like, it's risky. It's risky.
I go back to my last year playing with Edmonton, and the line of Doug Waite, Bill Guerin, and Ryan Smith, they dominated. They were too much to handle for every other line. Like, they were the best line in the NHL at that point. Had the most points per game of every line in the NHL. But the threat of losing Bill Guerin at the end of the year loomed with Kevin Lowe, and he made the trade. I mean, he got Anson Carter, who was a good player, but he was not Bill Guerin. And I was like, why not keep him? We lost the first round in Dallas that year, but looking back, and I don't know if we could have got out of that first round.
How much do you think it's different of the Oilers now with the ownership they have now and the team being maybe viewed differently now than back then?
Well, there was no salary cap. That's
different too. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. It's tough to.
They were fighting hard back then, right? Like, to keep those.
Yeah, guys, and you couldn't let it. And I understand why you did it, but he meant so much. Not only the play on the ice, he meant so much for every other aspect of our team. Like, he was loved in that dressing room, loved in the city. He was phenomenal. Like, if you could have had a team with multiple C's, they would have been, him, Gator, Dougie, multiple. We would have had 5 guys with C's on their chest just because what they meant in the locker room.
Cass, I think the Draisaitl conversation comes down to this: where's the better spot? Like, where you're going to get money wherever. Edmonton can give you the extra year. So where's the better situation for you if you're Leon Draisaitl than right here on the most deadly power play in the history of the game, riding shotgun with your good buddy Connor McDavid, and an excellent team built around you? Like, if they were like Winnipeg in that level right now, where you're like, oh, should be a playoff team, but probably not a true contender, then maybe I get it. But like, the Oilers have checked off every single box here to make themselves the best situation for Leon Draisaitl. I can't see a better spot for him to go to.
Florida.
Save some money on taxes.
Well, that's
that would probably sting almost as much as Vinny Desharnais becoming a Canuck. That's gross.
No. From a winning standpoint, it's the best chance he has.
Yeah,
is staying here.
It just doesn't make sense to me how he would leave. Like,
no, unless there's more money elsewhere. If it's $1 million extra a year somewhere else over 7 years.
Yeah, but they can give him the extra year here, and they can that'll.
Yeah, but
right?
And I know you brought up the tax thing, but
Stop
the tax
it, Cass!
thing's a real thing.
Stop it!
It's a real thing. I'm just saying it's a real thing. If you can save 20% in taxes by going somewhere else.
So what you're saying is Stamkos, Forsberg, and Marchessault need a center, hey? Interesting, Cass. Interesting what you're saying here.
I'm not saying no. The most likely thing is him re-signing. I think the most likely thing is him re-signing. I'm just saying, like, it's not, until that contract's signed, it's not a for sure thing.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into hire it or fire it for GS Construction. I'll lay out the take. You guys tell me if you're hiring it or firing it. And obviously it's called hire it or fire because GS Construction is hiring right now. Become a part of their great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca or their own page on indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, the foundation of GS Construction has been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team at GS Construction. All right, here we go. Evander Kane will not play for the Oilers next season. Hire it or fire it?
I'm going to fire it. I think McLeod's on his way out.
Gager, you took the words out of my mouth.
Move out McLeod, and
I think McLeod moves out. Yep. That was my first inkling when with the cap situation. I'm like, probably means McLeod's gone.
It's just it's interesting to me because we know Kane's not happy when he's not in the top six. Like, he's visibly shown his frustrations. And now they bring in Skinner and Arvidsson, and then everybody likes Henrique, Janmark, and Brown together. And I mean, if you could find a way to make everybody fit and you have a healthy Evander Kane, are you a better team? 100%. Like, I get it. I totally understand that. But Gage, I just don't know if he'd be along for the ride. Like, you might actually get him to be able to waive his no move if you're like, sorry, man, like, we like these guys as better fits in the top six. We can try to give you a top six opportunity somewhere else. But then you got to find somebody who's willing to bring him in for that top six opportunity somewhere. So I don't know. I don't know how this sorts itself out.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, the lines aren't set in stone, right? We're kind of.
Oh, you move everybody around, like, for sure.
Yeah,
it's not.
Who knows what happens? But yeah, we know I don't know. Hopefully, with Evander, he realizes this is his best shot at winning a cup. Eat a little bit of humble pie here and there, but perform.
Yeah. No matter the role you're in.
Perform.
Yeah.
Bring something to the table each and every night. And I don't know, maybe I think when you're injured, you get frustrated that you can't do everything that
because you want to mentally still, right?
Yeah. And I think there was probably a little bit of that that you saw in those interviews where he was a little bit angry, but he just couldn't perform at the level that we've seen. And he couldn't that he was injured for a better part of the season. So maybe that comes to it, but obviously have the conversation. I would with him, see where his head's at.
All right. Hire it or fire it. Jeff Skinner will score 30 goals for the Oilers.
Hire it.
As in, you want me to take the number higher? Like 34? 35?
Yeah.
Now 30 should be right. Now, Cass, that'll be tough without the power play time, though. Like, he's going to have to score like 27 or 28 at even strength.
Yeah, but I think he can. I mean, you're playing with those guys at 5-5. I think so. So I'm going to hire it.
That's a lot. Fire it, I think, unless they embrace my PP2 theory. Then it's a lock, but I'm firing.
The Oilers should trade Ryan McLeod for draft picks. Hire it or fire it?
Hire it.
Hire it, because then you can use the draft picks at some point to make a move on defense.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, unless it was a bigger deal where it was like McLeod and somebody for like a defenseman, then that's different. But I think you want those assets come trade deadline time.
What do you think he gets?
Great.
What do you think he gets?
Bloody,
like, let's say you're trading
great question.
Like a second round pick or a third round pick. Like what?
I would think you probably can get a third round pick for Ryan McLeod. Hey, and then you can use a third round pick at the deadline for something. I don't think you're getting a second round pick for Ryan McLeod. I think a third round pick.
Not a second?
No, I don't think so, man. Because it's always just still like the way it's all viewed now is that team's taking back that contract and that cap hit, right? Like it's
right.
Yeah, but it's not like he's an ancient player, right? Like he's still
there's
young
still some
with
upside,
a lot of potential upside. And so when I look at that, it's like, okay, you have a bona fide third line player in the NHL, and if you look, so just in this draft trade, but the Washington Capitals traded Beck Mallinston to the Buffalo Sabres for a second round pick. And he's a fourth line guy.
Yeah, okay.
And so I kind of go like, who's again young on the up and up, like had an okay season, really good on the penalty kill, like skates well. So there's, I don't know. I just kind of go, I think you might be able to get for a team that wants a young player that can play good minutes. I think you may be able to get a second round pick, but it's probably a second or a third.
Counterpoint. Teams know the Oilers are in a tough spot cap-wise. And if the value on Ryan McLeod is a second and the Oilers are like, damn, how are we going to dress our lineup properly? Teams will be like, hey, we'll help you out here. We'll give you a third for Ryan McLeod. So you're making a great case for a second, Cass. I'm just saying I'm not going to freak out on Jeff Jackson if McLeod gets traded for a third. Could you have wanted a second? Sure, but I think the situation that they've put themselves in here, being over the cap by $2.5 million right now, is not going to lead to any teams being like, hey, yeah, we'll totally give you a second for him. Gager, where do you come out on that theory?
Yeah, no, but who cares at that point? You're freeing up the space, Dusty.
Well, that's the thing, right? So,
yeah, I think if you can get a dance partner, you're two-stepping for sure with Ryan McLeod. I gave him a whole season, and he shows glimpses, but now with the team that you've built, I just think it's time to move on.
780-218-9999. You can play along here with Hire It or Fire It for GS Construction. 780-218-9999. If you're watching over on YouTube today, we'd love you to sub to the channel here with Edmonton Sports Talk, or at least give us a thumbs up. Hey, we're halfway to 100, just over halfway through the show. If you were watching right now, let's smash 100 today. It was a nice day of work for Jeff Jackson. Let's get to 100 likes on Two Guys and Goalie presented by GS Construction. All right, let's... maybe a cheap shot, but the Calgary Flames will miss the playoffs for the next 5 years. Hire it or fire it.
I'm gonna fire it. They'll make it by year 5.
I hope we're sitting here in 2029 and we're like, they did it. They did it, I tell you. Cass, I think things get worse in Calgary before they get better.
Yeah, probably. They probably do. They probably do, but I'm hesitant to hire it. But it is like that year 4, year 5. Like when we look at the Pacific Division in the West in general, like from a wild card standpoint, it's going to be tricky. So, yeah, I want to hire it, but I got to fire it. I think they probably get there before then, at least once.
Just a couple of Flames lovers here on Two Guys and a Goalie today. Interesting. All right, let's go here. Nashville, and we'll dive into Nashville's moves here a little bit more on the bigger and hotter headlines, but Nashville will be the biggest threat to the Oilers in the West. Hire it or fire it. And you can't take the lame way out and be like, the Oilers are the biggest threat to themselves because sometimes they don't play 60. Like, don't do that.
I'm going to hire it. I'm going to hire it, guys. I'm going to hire it. Like, I know you all, you got the goalie. You make fun of me for my Roman Josi love. You guys.
I mean, you had him pretty high up.
You have Josi and you have a good decor, and you look at the Nashville Predators, and the one area where they struggled was some of that offensive production. Like, it was a very by committee group, and they just didn't have some of that offensive punch from a depth standpoint. And you look at their lineup now with the changes they've made, and that has started to shift. So they're going to be a really good team next year. They're absolutely, in my opinion, after free agency, they are the biggest threat in the West to the Edmonton Oilers.
Gager, hire it or fire it, buddy.
I'm gonna fire it. yeah, they have some good players, but then if you match them up against the Oilers lineup, there's too much for them to handle. In a best of 7 series, they 5, 6, 7 Oilers overpower them, and that's it. And I think they abuse their D. Looking at their defensemen right now, they can't handle that Edmonton forward lineup, I don't think. But Ryan O'Reilly is, and now with Stamkos, they have a little bit more maybe scoring punch, but I still think they dominate.
Hired or fired?
Leon eats them for breakfast.
Hired or fired, presented by GS Construction. 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Hit us up over in the nasty chat as well. And hey, hammer the thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube today. And if you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, please just send the link to those apps or to EdmontonSportsTalk.com to your buddies so they can hop in on the fun here at EST as well. All right, bigger and hotter headlines. There's so many things to get to, obviously, with free agency yesterday. It was absolutely nuts. Let me kind of start it, and then we can sort of take the conversation from there. The Nashville Predators, I mean, you look at the big board, they got 3 of the top 4 names on that TSN big board in Stamkos, Marchessault, and Brady Shea. Gager, whether it ends up working out or not, and whether they end up being the bigger threat here to the Edmonton Oilers or not, that is a hell of a day for the Nashville Predators. Like, when you're a general manager, even in fantasy sports, you always have like your idea, like, I'm going to get this great guy, then I'm going to get this great guy, and then I'm going to get the best D-man on the market, and then all of a sudden you get it, and you don't believe it. And I feel like that's probably what Trotz was thinking yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to bring in that Stanley Cup pedigree, I think is important. Now you got multiple guys that have done it before. Unbelievable job. Like, if you were to rank GMs and what they were to accomplish, I don't know. Does Nashville kind of get the edge just because of the name recognition? They might get the A++.
That's a good question. Cass, what do you think? The best job yesterday by Trotz, or was it
probably?
Yeah.
Edmonton's close. Edmonton's close, and you have to see. It's going to be hindsight, right? We're going to be able to look back and go, who did the best job? But in immediate observation would be it's really close. I mean, for Nashville, again, how can you not look at this and say they did an amazing job?
I think the case, if we're going to make the homer case for Jeff Jackson did the better job, it's that, like, he had $12 million to work with, and he's over. He's over. Yeah, he's over. That's a good point. But it's easy to maybe sign the top 3 guys when you're in Nashville. You got $20 million to spend on these 3 dudes, and they think for sure contender if they all go together there. So, heck of a day though. Heck of a day for sure. Bigger, hotter headlines brought to you by Big Mamas and Papa's Pizzeria. BMPP is a real pizzeria restaurant, not just a delivery pizza chain serving authentic Italian cuisine made with their made in-house pizza dough, traditional tomato sauce, fresh toppings. Each pizza is cooked to perfection. A pizza experience that you've been waiting for. Visit them at 12848 97th Street or order today at www.bmpp.ca, or you can just give them a call, 587-746-0550. They got the huge pizzas, and then they got regular size, absolutely delicious pizzas as well. What do you guys make of Tanev getting 6 years from the Toronto Maple Leafs? That seemed like they were super desperate to get something of significance on the back end and had to give him a couple extra years. I was joking about it on our EST free agency special yesterday, where I said Tanev sent out his dream contract to everybody, and it included all these bonuses, so it's like buyout free, and the Leafs are like, we'll give it to you. Here you go. Because, Cass, I don't know how he really could have expected much more. Good defenseman for sure, no doubt about it, but 6 years when you're 34 years old and got some hard miles on you, he's got to be laughing today.
That's a long time. He's going for the Yager career. Yeah, play until he's 50.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's a long one. But again, you look at Canada coming back to a Canadian team, and from a money standpoint to say, okay, what are you going to, if you can't from a cap standpoint, give him just more upfront dollars, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle this? How are you going to entice this player to come here? And for Tanev, the answer was clearly term. So are they desperate? Yeah, they were absolutely desperate. They're absolutely desperate. You're going to hate that contract, the last 2 years of it. But they needed to have an answer for today and for now, because for the Toronto Maple Leafs, their window to win is now. So I totally understand it. Like, it was, way too long, 2 years long, longer than it should have been, maybe 3 years longer than it should have been. But, if you have to sign a player, you have to do it, which is what they did. But that's going to be a buyout contract in 4 years.
Well, but it's a bunch of bonuses. Like, you can't even, it's buyout proof. Like, he got a buyout proof deal too.
Yes.
Like,
from a cap standpoint, we're talking, not from a buyout proof in terms of his money. Yeah. Right. But I'm talking buyout from a cap relief standpoint, not from a actual dollars having to give to the player.
Gager, how many years in this deal are we like, what have the Leafs done here? 3 years? Give him 3 years? 38, 37, 38?
I think it's a great contract because I can't see him passing the physical after a couple years. Like, you think he's
LTIR,
he's basically held together with duct tape now. He's going to go on long-term injury reserve way before the end of this deal, I think, anyway. Is he going to be blocking shots at 39 years old? I don't think so. This guy will barely be able to walk. I mean, he's an absolute beast, but I think they'll be able to just put him on IR for the last few seasons, like they did with like Carey Price, things like that.
What about Vegas, guys? I saw they signed Viktor Arvidsson today, but they lose Marchessault, they lose Chandler Stevenson. Cass, has Vegas dropped down from Stanley Cup contender to like still good team that could win Stanley Cup?
Yeah. Yep. But that's the position they put themselves in because they use the Vegas term, they push all their chips in, right? Like, in terms of the aggressiveness of some of the moves that they've made and the trades that they've made, where they were going to have to make some really hard decisions from a cap standpoint. I mean, you can't go into playoffs with like $120 million cap and expect you're going to be able to retain all of it the next season with your finagling of the LTIR. So, at some point you can play that game for a couple of years, but the Roosters are going to start to come home to roost. And I think that's what we're starting to see, where it's just going to be part of it. I think you'll see the next couple of years there'll be a slide back from Vegas, and they're going to have to basically do a rebuild on the fly here. So they're still a really good team. They're not, as I would say and said, I think Nashville is a bigger threat than Vegas. But they're no longer, in my opinion, when we look at that roster, we look at that team, we're not like, ooh, it's going to be really challenging for the Oilers to overcome.
They're still like $3.5 million over the cap too, right? Like there's still work to do. They're still a good team though, boys. You look at that decor.
Oh, they are.
That rivals any other decor in the league. And Carlson, Hurdle, Stone, Eichel, those are really good building blocks for any team to deal with. Barbashev, still a really good player. They'll be there. They're still around, but just on the strength of their defensemen. I think
it's a really good blue line. Yeah, it is.
It's unreal. It's unreal.
I feel like they'll find a way to get around the cap space, but we'll see. We'll see if they.
Maybe they
will. They will.
God, man, I'm so sad that Cap Friendly is going away. It's such a great resource. Like
it is,
man.
Stupid Florida Panthers.
Capitals. Washington Capitals.
Was it
Capitals at bottom? Yeah.
Stupid Washington Capitals.
They did this great thing for goalies. They actually broke down how much each save was worth, or how much they made per save. Jack Campbell made over $36,000 per save. Man, I had to pay for my save.
Hey, they made the right decision, Kassian, and buying out Campbell. I mean, it allowed them. The savings basically allowed them to get Skinner or Henrique, whoever you want to classify it. Had to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had to happen. Good guy. Feel sorry for him, but had to happen.
Gager, he got signed by Detroit for like a minimum. Do you think he ever resurfaces in the National Hockey League again?
I don't think so, Dusty.
Yeah.
I think he his worst enemy is himself, essentially. Is not able to like Stuart Skinner, is able to turn off the bad game. I think he gets down on him way too much. And yeah, I mean, but Detroit's still a really big hockey market. So, I mean, he was in Toronto, which, there's under the microscope. Here's obviously under the microscope, can't go anywhere. Maybe he slides through the weeds in Detroit, not as recognizable. Maybe he can get his game, but I don't see it at this point of his career.
780-218-9999, 780-218-9999 over in the nasty chat. You can hit us up as well. K-Gill says, Dusty, did you enjoy Stauffer's cryptic tweets yesterday? Stauf, man, I had to have another phone call with Stauf here. Talked to him right near the end of the Stanley Cup final. And yesterday it's been like, I have a gut feeling there'll be forward. Like, just break the news, Stauf. Like, everybody knows that you know what's going on. Just break the news. Like, I don't know. It drives me nuts. Love the guy, but drives me nuts when he's just like, I think they're going to have depth at forward. I'm like, well, then just tell us who. You know what's happening. Just tell us. Like, what are you doing? Like, just own it. Just people know you're employed by the team. Just say what's happening. Like, oh, it drives me nuts.
God, it kind of bugs me that, well, obviously it's disappointing that the Oilers didn't win, because I pictured Stauf on his own float, right?
Absolutely.
Tarps off, Red Bull float.
Oh God,
he's chucking Red Bulls into the crowd.
I imagine more of a rickshaw with Mooner and Jack pulling him. I think that would be the legendary play.
Oh my God!
Can you imagine Mooner and Jack pulling stuff in a rickshaw in the parade? Oh my God!
Full toga, chucking out Red Bull shots.
That would be, you're right. Just Red Bull shots for everybody. That would be, man, that would be legendary. That would be too funny. As far as the whole signing guys thing goes, they just had the best free agency day in franchise history without a general manager. Cass, do you need a general manager? Could you just promote one of these guys from within, maybe, that was there helping you yesterday? And Jeff Jackson's still going to call all the final shots anyway, probably. I don't know.
Jeff Jackson is the Hay King.
Well, yeah. I still don't understand that reference, but
that's an Office reference. Where Dwight runs like a big hay festival.
Yeah.
And it's like someone gets named Hay King, like supposed to be one of the kids. And when he goes to announce it, he names himself Hay King. That's that reference, like where it's just like, everyone's excited, like who's it going to be? And then he names himself the champion or the Hay King. That's that reference. So like where it wouldn't shock me, the Kyle Dubas move where it's like, who's going to be GM?
I am.
Who's going to be? I
the
am
Scooby-Doo reveal.
Right. It's just his own face. He peels off his own face, and it's him. Like that's. So maybe we see that. Like it wouldn't shock me, but I mean, after what we just saw in free agency, I kind of go like, would that be a horrible thing?
Like, who's going to do a better job than what Jackson and his staff, whoever was involved, did yesterday, right, Gager? Like, you said it was that you on our show this morning. You said walks by the full-length mirror and it's like, you're the GM now. Like,
yeah. Wait a second. Who is that good-looking guy? He looks like a GM. Oh, I wonder, like, because it was so successful. Cass, you would probably know more about this, dealing in that realm a little bit more, but with player agents and stuff and having relationships with other agents, do you think that probably benefits Jackson at this stage, just taking over the team, where he can talk to these guys on a little bit more of like a personal level than, say, the hard-nosed GM guy that, they're always butting heads on things?
Yeah. You probably have a pretty good relationship and like a lot of conversations. So there's a lot of familiarity there. There's a lot of familiarity in how they like to be dealt with and how they like to be talked to. And so it doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt. I don't think at all. He was well respected in that world. So yeah, from a relationship standpoint, there's definitely some advantages that now some of that may fade as time goes on and you have to have harder negotiations, right? And you have to draw the line in the sand, but you haven't had to do that. These weren't line in the sand negotiations where you're like trying to talk someone down that's an RFA that thinks they're worth more and you're filing ARBs. Like, and like that kind of stuff, which can degrade relationships. Free agency is a building where the conversations are all positive, right? They're positive conversations that are happening around this time, not necessarily the huge negative ones. Now, maybe on some of the RFAs and that sort of thing, they're a little bit more so, but yeah, I think you get a couple years of advantage of that, and then we'll have to see, but certainly didn't hurt right now.
Yeah. I just wonder if you just find that, you figure out who you think you could groom to be a really good GM in your organization right now, and just work with him, right? And just work with him and see where it goes from there. Because Jeff Jackson seems like he's in a position where he can handle a lot of the heavy lifting if need be. So could be something that you look at. Like Zulu says, Keith Gretzky, or Bill Scott can kind of manage the team with JJ. Yep. If that was the case that you
I would like Bill Scott, but I'm completely biased.
I'm actually kind of biased with Bill as well, because his kid plays White Mud West. I coached him last year. And he's a really nice guy, man. Like, he's just such a nice guy.
His dad and his wife Amy too, and the kids, they are fantastic people, just great people. So we
throw full support behind Bill Scott to be like AGM underneath
100%.
Jeff Jackson. Yeah, that'd be
absolutely.
Big Maple with one of the best messages I think I've seen since we launched EST like 10 months ago. But Jeff Jackson putting on his chapstick in a mirror saying, "I'd resign me."
with the Goodbye Horses soundtrack. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's too good. That's really
one thing,
really
Dusty. Just for big mamas and papas. My wife and I went there for our anniversary.
Come on.
Picked up a big cheese and brought it home. Delicious, by the way, the 4 cheese.
Just the 4 cheese pizza, hey?
Yeah, wow. Just the 4 cheese. Well, we shared it with my son.
Okay.
So, we came home. Daughter's out of town, but
well, happy belated anniversary, buddy.
Thanks, man.
How many years?
Yeah, it was good. Really good. So married 18. So 36 with the wind chill.
That's good. The cheese pizza, man. My kids love the cheese pizza. I'm always like, get some pepperoni on there. You're killing me with just this cheese pizza.
Know. I got to go with the gondola boats, though. That was we were both ravenous. We almost ordered tons of stuff, but
did you get the? Oh, you just went with the pizza. I was gonna say, did you get the gondola boat?
No, okay. I just I'll just get the pizza. But now that it's just down the road from me, so.
Oh yeah, that one's open now, hey?
Yeah, the one in Windermere, kitty corner from the Superstore is open. So get in there. It's great.
Oh, right where the Superstore is, right in oh wow, that's convenient.
It's across the kitty corner, across the way.
Yeah.
Just across from Constable Woodall's school.
Oh yeah, right there. Okay, in the other corner where there's that the building,
there's
like a mini mall, strip mall thing or whatever. Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, that's good to know. Oh, excellent. Oh, you're going to be there all the time now. You're going to be like Norm at Cheers when you walk into that place.
I know.
That's going to be good.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
All right, that's going to do it for Two Guys and Goalie today, presented by GS Construction. They are hiring now. They've been setting the industry standard for 50 years of quality, efficiency, safety, driving all of their success. GS Construction is a foundation built on teamwork, and now they want you to become a part of the team unless Jeff Jackson scoops you up first. That's how well he's been doing. We will continue to dive into the roster construction of the Edmonton Oilers on Thursdays. Two Guys and a Goalie. Boys, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Watch the Acolyte.
Today's the new one?
No, I haven't watched yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cass, are you up to date?
I haven't watched any of them. Yeah,
I haven't. It is heating up.
Last week was crazy. Last week was unbelievable.
Last week was nuts.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was a good show, man. That was And the Bear is back now too.
Oh, it's 3 episodes. It's great.
Yeah, my wife, I'm trying to get her caught up on the Bear so we can watch season 3 together. So much to do with shows all summer long. It's going to be a good time. See you later, boys. For Gager and Cass, I am Dustin Nielson. Nielson Show replay coming up here on TuneIn, iHeart, or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. If you are on YouTube, we'll be coming at you live tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock from the ranch. We've got the $100,000 hole-in-one contest going down live on the air at 7 o'clock tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun. Best of luck to everybody taking part in that, boys. We will talk to you later in the week.
Bye.